Alien warrior said, "This room's no more space, so I'll use you as my bed." The asteroid hung silently in the vast blackness of space, its gray surface dotted with jagged rocks and shallow craters. From orbit, it looked lifeless, cold, and unwelcoming, yet Captain Lyra Dane loved it. She had been stationed at Outpost Sigma 9 for 3 months now, and despite the monotony, the tiny outpost had become her second home. Lyra stretched as she walked down the narrow hallway of the station. Her boots clanged softly against the metal floor. "Another quiet day," she muttered to herself, "just the way I like it." But space had a funny way of surprising anyone, and Lyra knew better than to get too comfortable. The main screen in the control room blinked, drawing her attention. A soft chime echoed through the room. "Incoming vessel detected," the automated system announced in its calm, mechanical voice. Lyra's eyes widened. Space traffic near Sigma 9 was rare. Almost nothing passed through this region. "Show me visuals," she said. A holographic display popped up, showing a sleek but unusual ship gliding toward the asteroid. It wasn't like any human vessel Lyra had seen. The surface was smooth and iridescent, shifting colors like liquid metal in the sunlight. Its shape was unfamiliar, almost organic, yet clearly built for travel. Lyra's fingers hovered over the communication panel. "This is Captain Lyra Dane of Outpost Sigma 9, she said. "Identify yourself." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice came through, deep, resonant, and strange. It had been translated by the station's universal translator, though the phrasing was odd. "This room no more space. I will use you as my bed." Lyra blinked. "Excuse me," she said, half laughing, half concerned. The message repeated, this time accompanied by visuals from the alien ship. A massive, towering figure could be seen stepping out. Its skin was a shimmering blue, its eyes bright with an intelligent curiosity. It carried itself like a warrior, confident and strong, yet there was a softness in its gestures. Lyra's heart raced. "Well, this is unexpected," she muttered. She quickly gathered her team. Lieutenant Mara, a sharp engineer, and Technician Keo, a communications specialist, joined her in the control room. "Captain, it's huge," Mara said, pointing at the screen. "Its size, we can't stop it if it comes inside." "I know," Lyra replied. "But it doesn't seem hostile, at least not in the way we think of hostility. It's weirdly polite." Keo shook his head. "Polite? Captain, it just said it's going to use you as a bed," Lyra sighed. "Yes, and that's exactly what makes it complicated. We can't fight it and we can't reason with it in normal terms. We need a plan." The alien, whom they later learned was called Throck, began moving toward the airlock. Its steps were heavy but surprisingly careful. Every motion seemed deliberate, almost curious, as if it was learning how humans behaved. Lyra activated the station's force field doors. "Hold it there," she commanded. The screen showed Throck pause, tilting its head. Its translator device clicked again. "Why resistance?" "Room is small." "Because Throck," Lyra said, her voice calm but firm, "humans do not like to be slept on. Beds are private, very private." Throck's brow furrowed. "Private bed, why not use human, efficient?" Lyra held back a laugh. "Humans are not beds." "Beds are for humans, not the other way around." Keo whispered, "Captain, it's still coming. We can't hold it for long." Lyra rubbed her temples. "We need a distraction, something that will make it stop and pay attention." Her eyes fell on the sound system. "Music," she exclaimed. "We'll use music, it's universal. Humans, aliens, everyone reacts to rhythm and tone." Mara raised an eyebrow. "You're going to play music for it?" "Yes, and maybe it will dance or think." "Anything that stops it from climbing onto me," Lyra replied, already moving toward the control panel. The first notes of a lively tune filled the room. Throck froze. Its eyes widened, and for a moment it seemed unsure what to do. Then slowly, it raised a massive hand and tapped it to the beat, trying to mimic the rhythm. Its movements were awkward, giant limbs moving in ways that almost knocked over nearby equipment. Lyra stepped forward cautiously. "See," It works. It's curious. Throck tilted its head again, clearly struggling with the concept of music but clearly enjoying it. It stomped one foot lightly, making the floor shake. Lyra jumped back. "Careful, that's my office, not a dance floor." The alien's translator clicked again. "Music, good. But still need bed," Lyra groaned. "We're not going to solve that today, you're going to have to wait." She quickly started assembling a plan. They could not fight Throck, it was far too strong. They could not reason with it in normal terms. It thought like a warrior, logical but strange. The only thing they had was human ingenuity, quick thinking, and a sense of humor. Lyra looked around and spotted her zero-gravity training pods. "Mara, bring me the pods." "Kyo, keep the music going." Minutes later, the room was filled with a confusing setup of mirrors, pods, and floating objects. Lyra had created a maze of reflections and distractions designed to confuse Throck without hurting it. When Throck entered, it paused, looking around in awe. Its eyes followed each reflection, each movement, its massive fingers hovering over the control panel but never touching. "Captain," Mara whispered, "it's working. It's examining everything instead of coming for you." "Yes, and it's learning," Lyra said. "Aliens may be strong, but humans are clever. Let's show it how clever we can be." For the next hour, Throck explored the room like a giant child, curious about every detail. It poked at floating panels, tapped the music controls, and occasionally tried to sit on a floating pod, causing it to spin like a carousel. Lyra laughed despite the danger. "You're learning fast, Throck," she said. "But the human way is not to be used as furniture. You have to understand we have personal space." The alien tilted its head again. "Space small, human comfortable, use human." "Nope," Lyra said firmly. "Not happening." Finally, Throck paused and looked at Lyra directly. There was a glimmer of something in its alien eyes, curiosity, respect, perhaps even admiration. It tapped its chest, as if acknowledging her leadership, and then stepped back, towering but calmer. Lyra exhaled, relief washing over her. She had survived her first contact with an alien warrior, not by strength, but by thinking like a human, creative, clever, and quick-witted. "Captain," Kyo said, breaking the silence, "you actually talked it out without getting squashed." Lyra smiled, rubbing the back of her neck. "We humans have a way of doing things. Sometimes we're not the strongest, but we can outsmart anyone, even a giant alien warrior who wants to use you as a bed." Throck's translator clicked once more. "Human, clever, music, enjoyable." "We'll wait," Lyra grinned. "See, understanding and creativity beat brute strength any day." As the alien slowly retreated to its ship, Lyra turned to her team. "Get ready, everyone. This is just the beginning. Throck is curious, strong, and stubborn, and we're going to have to outthink it again. But if we can keep him entertained, maybe, just maybe, we can survive this without anyone ending up under a 400-pound alien warrior." Mara chuckled. "You're crazy, Captain." "Maybe," Lyra replied with a smirk, "but humans are awesome when it counts." The stars outside the station sparkled like distant diamonds, and for the first time in months, Lyra felt the excitement of adventure. An alien had arrived, strange and imposing, yet harmless enough to give them a chance to prove what humans could do. And she had no intention of letting that opportunity go to waste. The next morning at Outpost Sigma 9 felt completely different. The station, which was usually quiet and calm, now carried a strange kind of excitement and nervous energy. Captain Lyra Dane sat in the control room, sipping a warm drink, trying to prepare her mind. She knew Throck, the giant alien warrior, would return soon. He had promised to wait, but waiting for an alien did not mean everything was safe. It simply meant another strange day was coming. She glanced at her team. Lieutenant Mara was checking the systems to make sure nothing malfunctioned. Technician Kyo was monitoring the sensors to make sure Throck's ship was still nearby. Everyone moved carefully, as if even a loud sound might somehow invite trouble. "Ship is still here," Kyo said softly. He hasn't gone anywhere, Lyra nodded. Then we prepare. Today we try to understand him better. Yesterday we only stopped him. Today we need to learn. Mara raised an eyebrow. Learn from someone who wanted to sleep on you. Lyra smiled a little. Yes, he may be strange, but he is not cruel. He is only different. And understanding differences is how humans survive. Before anyone could respond, a soft vibration ran through the floor. The lights flickered slightly. Throck was approaching again. The airlock doors detected the pressure change, and soon his tall blue figure appeared in the entrance corridor. He was as large and impressive as before, yet now he seemed calmer. Instead of barging in, he stopped and waited. His translator device clicked and his voice echoed gently through the room. "Human leader, I returned," the translator said in its slightly robotic tone. "Room still small, but I will not sit on you." Lyra could not help but laugh softly. "Thank you. That is a great improvement." She stepped closer, staying confident but respectful. "You are welcome here, Throck, but we must learn how to share space. We do things differently. If we understand each other, no one gets confused." Throck nodded slowly, his expression curious. "Understand, good, teach me." Those three simple words surprised everyone. An alien warrior asking to learn from humans felt unbelievable, yet inspiring. Lyra's heart warmed a little. This was a chance, not just a problem. She guided Throck to the main hall where she had prepared again. Instead of mirrors and tricks, this time she had arranged something different. On one side of the room were simple human objects: a chair, a blanket, a pillow, a sleeping pad, and a soft light. On the other side were various training tools, puzzles, and small moving machines that floated gently in low gravity. Throck looked around, amazed. His large eyes sparkled like a curious child seeing a playground for the first time. "This human world?" he asked. "This is part of it," Lyra replied warmly. "This is how we live. We do not lie on each other to rest. We use these items. Each one has a purpose." She walked to the sleeping pad and tapped it. "This is a bed, soft, comfortable, personal." Throck slowly bent forward and carefully touched it, pressing his large fingers down like he was testing it. His translator clicked. "Soft cloud for body." "Yes," Lyra nodded. "For relaxing, for peace." Throck stood silently for a moment. It almost seemed like he was thinking deeply. His culture was different, his habits were unusual, but now he could see something new. "But why," he finally asked, "not use another person easier?" Lyra smiled kindly. "Because our bodies are not tools, we respect them. We protect comfort. Humans feel emotions. If someone sits on them or lies on them, it hurts feelings, not only body. We care about feelings." Throck blinked, surprised. "Feelings important." "Very important," Lyra answered softly. "Strength is not the only power. Kindness, respect, and understanding are also power." Throck stood up straight. For the first time, he looked a little unsure of himself, like his old beliefs and new knowledge were colliding inside his mind. Keo whispered quietly to Mara, "I think he's actually thinking about it." Mara nodded. "This might actually work." Lyra then guided Throck to the puzzle area. "Now I want to learn about you. Show me what matters to your people." Throck slowly relaxed his shoulders as if he felt safe enough to be honest. "My people respect challenge, respect clever minds. We test each other with games. Winners are honored. That is why I wanted to use you as bed." A strange way of saying victory. "So it was not insult?" Lyra asked. Throck shook his head. "No insult, a honor, but I understand now. Human honor different." Lyra smiled brightly. "Then let us honor each other in a new way." She activated the floating training spheres. They lit up and began drifting gently through the air, each one with different symbols and patterns glowing on the surface. Throck's eyes widened again. "What are these?" he asked. "Human challenge," Lyra said proudly. "Not about strength, about thinking and timing." The game began. The spheres moved slowly at first, and Throck had to tap the right ones based on the symbol Lyra called out. At first he missed many of them. His giant hands moved too slowly or too strongly, causing the pods to spin away. Instead of becoming frustrated, he seemed intrigued. Each mistake made him more determined. Soon, his movements became smoother. His timing improved. His eyes followed the patterns with growing focus. The room filled with a calm energy. There was no shouting, no chaos, only learning and quiet excitement. Lyra watched proudly. This was what she believed in. Humans did not always need power to impress. Sometimes, simply sharing knowledge was enough to build respect. After a while, the game ended. Throck stood tall, breathing slowly. His translator clicked softly. Human game, good, mind works, body calm, I respect. And I respect you, Lyra replied warmly. You tried, that is what matters. For a moment, the giant alien warrior and the human captain simply looked at each other with understanding. Two completely different worlds, yet somehow closer now than they were before. Throck then did something surprising. He gently placed his hand over his chest and bowed slightly. You are strong in mind. You are great leader. Mara and Keo exchanged shocked looks. This was not what they expected when an alien first arrived claiming he wanted to use a human as a bed. Lyra smiled softly. Thank you, and you are not just big, you are thoughtful. Suddenly, a cheerful melody filled the room. Keo had turned on music again, just to lighten the atmosphere. Throck immediately perked up, swaying slightly to the sound like before. It almost looked comical, but it was also warm and innocent. Music again, Throck said happily. I like human sound world. Good, Lyra laughed gently. Because there is much more to learn. If you want, we can teach you many things. And maybe you can teach us about your stars, your home, your people. Throck nodded proudly. Yes, I will share. We will not misunderstand again. The tension in the station vanished completely. The crew finally breathed in peace. This was no longer just an alien visitor. This was the beginning of friendship, curiosity, and mutual growth. As the day slowly moved on, Throck returned to his ship to rest, but this time he did not try to sleep on anyone. Instead, he carefully asked Lyra for a spare sleeping pad. She happily provided one, and Throck carried it away with surprising care, like a child holding a precious gift. When he left, the station felt brighter, not because of lights but because of hope. Lyra sat down at her desk and smiled to herself. Humans might not be the strongest beings in the universe, but they had something special: creativity, kindness, humor, and heart. And that was enough to turn a misunderstanding into friendship. And Lyra knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning of something much bigger and far more meaningful than anyone expected. Days at Outpost Sigma 9 slowly began to change after Throck's second visit. What was once a quiet and lonely space station was now filled with new sounds, new laughter, and a strange but warm type of excitement. Everyone had grown used to the idea that a giant alien warrior might visit at any moment, not to cause trouble, but simply to learn, explore, and enjoy being around humans. Captain Lyra Dane sat in the main hall early in the morning, looking at the calm screens and soft lights. She remembered her first fear when Throck arrived, how she thought everything might go wrong, and now she smiled to herself. Instead of danger, she found curiosity. Instead of fear, she found friendship. It felt unbelievable, yet wonderful. Mara came in stretching her arms. Morning, Captain. Guess what? He is awake in his ship. Sensors show movement. Lyra laughed gently. Of course he is. He probably wants to learn something new again today. Keo appeared right after, smiling in a playful way. Or maybe he wants to try every single human thing in this station. Yesterday he wanted to understand why humans like warm drinks. And did he understand? Lyra asked. Keo chuckled. He called it liquid comfort. Lyra smiled. Then today he will learn something more. Soon that familiar soft trembling filled the station again. The metal floor gently vibrated as Throck approached. But unlike the first time, no one panicked. No alarms rang. No one hid. Instead, the doors opened calmly and the tall blue alien stepped inside like a familiar guest. He looked happier than before. His translator clicked and his warm, deep voice filled the room. "Human friends, I return again. I slept well. Your soft cloud bed is good." Mara whispered to Keo with a grin, "He likes the mattress more than he likes using people." Keo nodded. "That's progress." Lyra stepped forward with a welcoming smile. "Welcome back, Throck. Today we will do something special. You learned about human rest. You learned about human puzzles. Now today you will learn something very important for us." Throck tilted his head curiously. "Important like leader thinking." "Something like that," Lyra nodded. "Today you learn about trust." Throck blinked slowly. The word sounded new to him. "Trust," he repeated. "Explain." Lyra gently placed her hand over her heart. "Trust means believing in someone. It means knowing they will not harm you. It means working together. When you trust someone, you do not fear them. You feel safe." Throck stayed still, thinking. His world had always valued strength and challenge, but trust, safety, emotional understanding, these were new ideas to him. He placed his large hand on his chest, copying Lyra's gesture. "Trust is strong." "Very strong," Lyra replied gently. "Stronger than muscle. Stronger than size." The idea seemed to touch something deep inside Throck. He slowly nodded, almost with respect. "Teach me." Lyra smiled. "Good, then we begin." She brought him to a wide area in the main hall. The floor had small glowing lines and moving panels. The space felt almost like a gentle playground. Soft moving platforms floated slowly, changing directions. The goal was simple: move together without bumping into anything. But the true lesson was cooperation. Lyra stepped on one platform. "You stand on the other." Throck carefully stepped on a much larger pad designed especially for him. The moment both of them stood in place, the platforms began to glide slowly around the room. Keo adjusted the controls. Movement speed low, nothing dangerous, just focus. Throck looked unsure for a second. He was used to standing firm. He was used to solid ground. Floating together was strange, but he watched Lyra carefully. She moved calmly, balancing with gentle motions. "Do what I do," she said softly. "Do not rush. Follow movement. Trust the platform. Trust me." Throck slowly copied her balance. At first his movements were stiff, but little by little they became smoother. His body relaxed. His steps grew lighter. Soon, Lyra stretched her hand forward toward him. "Now take my hand." Everyone in the room held their breath for a moment. To Throck, taking someone's hand was a sign of trust. It meant closeness. It meant allowing someone near without fear. After a pause, he slowly stretched out his giant hand and gently touched hers. For a moment, human and alien stood connected, not in battle, not in fear, but in simple trust. The platforms moved faster now, creating a flowing dance between them. Lyra guided him gently. Throck followed carefully. There was no panic, no worry. Only learning, calm movement, and growing faith. Mara whispered softly, "Look at that, a giant warrior trusting a small human." Keo nodded with quiet pride. "That is HFY. Humans are special not because we fight, but because we connect." Eventually, the platform slowed down and stopped. Lyra released his hand and smiled proudly. "That is trust. We moved together. We stayed calm together. We depended on each other." Throck stared at his own hand as if it now carried a new meaning. Then he looked at Lyra with deep respect. "Trust is beautiful." He then did something surprising and amazing. He bowed again, but deeper than before. His voice carried more emotion. "Human captain, you are not only strong-minded. You are kind heart. My people honor challenge. But I honor this too." Lyra's heart warmed. "And I honor you, Throck. You are open to learn. That is true strength." After that, everyone relaxed. The lesson turned into laughter and fun. They showed Throck simple human games. He tried to toss soft objects into floating rings. His accuracy was terrible at first, and every miss made him sigh in confusion, which made everyone laugh kindly. Soon, he laughed too, his deep alien laugh echoing in the hall. They played music again. Throck now moved more confidently, swaying gently and trying to match rhythm. He was not graceful, but he was joyful, and joy was enough. Later, Lyra asked him, "Tell us about your world." Throck's eyes brightened. He loved his home. He described tall glowing mountains, giant crystal plains, sky rivers of light, and massive training arenas where his people tested their minds and bodies. But as he spoke, there was something else too, a quiet loneliness. A feeling that his people knew strength but maybe not connection the way humans did. "Do your people trust each other?" Lyra asked softly. Throck went silent for a moment. "They trust strength, they trust winning, but hearts," he shook his head slowly. "Not like humans." Lyra looked at him gently. "Then maybe one day you can teach them what you learned here." Throck seemed proud of that idea. "Yes, I will show them. I will tell them humans are small but very great." Those words filled the room with warmth. When it was time for Throck to return to his ship for rest, he did not rush. He looked around the station like it was no longer just a building but a place of meaning, a place where he grew, a place where he belonged in some way. Before leaving, he looked at Lyra again. "I once thought using you as bed was honor. Now I know real honor is learning from you. I do not want bed, I want friendship." Lyra smiled softly. "And you have it." He nodded proudly and slowly walked out, carrying his soft sleeping pad again like a treasured prize. When he was gone, the station felt calm and bright again. Mara sighed happily. "Captain, I think we changed him." Lyra shook her head gently. "No, he changed himself. We only opened the door," Kyo smiled. "Still, humans did that, without power, without fear. Only with mind and heart." Lyra looked out the window toward the stars. She felt proud not only for herself, not only for her crew, but for humanity. They were not the strongest in the universe. They were not the biggest, but they were clever. They were kind. They could build trust with those who were completely different. And that was a power greater than any weapon or battle. And deep inside, she knew the journey with Throck was far from over. More lessons were coming. More challenges. More laughter. And humans were ready. The days at Outpost Sigma 9 had grown brighter, quieter, and yet somehow busier since Throck's arrival. Captain Lyra Dane woke up that morning with a soft smile. The previous days had been full of lessons, laughter, and small victories. Throck had learned about trust, human rest, and even enjoyed the simple joys of music and playful games. But today felt different. Lyra could sense that Throck was ready for something more. Something that required not only curiosity but creativity, skill, and a little bit of cunning. She gathered Mara and Kyo in the control room. "Today," she said, "we are going to play a challenge game, not for strength, not for fear, for cleverness." Mara raised an eyebrow. "A challenge game with him?" "Yes," Lyra replied firmly. "Throck respects challenge. That is how his people honor greatness. If we do this right, we can teach him something valuable, how humans win with brains, not just brawn." Kyo's eyes lit up. "And maybe we can make it fun for him too," Lyra smiled. "Exactly. Gather the floating spheres, the puzzle panels, and the light paths. We will turn the main hall into a challenge arena." By the time Throck arrived, the hall had been transformed. Floating platforms drifted slowly through the low-gravity room, glowing with soft-colored lights. Several panels hovered at different heights, each displaying a symbol or a pattern. Spheres floated gently, some moving slowly in circles, others oscillating back and forth. The arena was strange, complicated, and exciting. Throck's eyes widened as he looked around. "Human preparing challenge, I see, I accept." "Good," Lyra said. "This challenge is not about force. It is about observation, timing, and clever thinking. You may be strong, but brains matter here." Throck tilted his head. "Brains matter." "Yes," Lyra replied. "Pay attention. Watch, think, and plan. Strength alone will not win." The first task began. Floating spheres moved in different patterns, and both Lyra and Throck had to tap the correct ones in sequence. If they tapped the wrong sphere, it would reset the sequence. Lyra moved with calm precision, timing each tap carefully. Throck, huge and powerful, tried to match her, but his large hands often missed the spheres or tapped the wrong ones, causing gentle chaos. At first, it seemed like he would fail. His frustration was clear, yet he did not give up. Instead, he observed. He watched Lyra's movements carefully, tilting his head and trying to understand the pattern. Slowly, he began to move more carefully, his large fingers barely touching the spheres at the right time. "You see," Lyra said softly, "you can do this. Watch, plan, and act." Strength alone does not matter. Throck's eyes sparkled. "Human, clever, I see now." Next came the puzzle panels. Each panel displayed a simple symbol, but the symbols moved randomly. The goal was to match each symbol with its counterpart before time ran out. Lyra demonstrated first, tapping and dragging panels with swift precision. Throck stared at her movements, fascinated. When it was his turn, he moved slowly at first, misaligning panels and causing the shapes to bounce in unexpected ways. Lyra guided him gently. "Look at the patterns, think ahead, don't rush. You are bigger, yes, but planning is what wins here." Throck's large eyes narrowed in concentration. He began to anticipate the movement of the symbols, adjusting his hands with surprising delicacy. After several minutes, he had matched almost all the symbols correctly. His translator clicked and he said softly, "Planning stronger than muscle." "Human, clever," Lyra smiled. "Exactly, and you are learning it fast." The final part of the challenge involved the floating platforms. Both Lyra and Throck had to move together across a set of platforms that shifted slowly in different directions. Each misstep would make them fall into a soft padded area below, harmless but enough to reset their progress. At first, Throck tried to move alone. He was strong, he was large, he thought he could stomp across without trouble. But the platforms were tricky. Each step had to be carefully balanced. He stumbled several times, wobbling dangerously before regaining his balance. Lyra took his hand. "We do this together, trust me. Move as one." Throck looked uncertain, but slowly, carefully, he allowed her guidance. They moved step by step, adjusting to each other's motions. At first it was clumsy, but soon something remarkable happened. They began to move in sync. Each step, each balance, each careful motion became a rhythm, a dance of cooperation and understanding. The floating platforms glowed with light as they reached the final pad. Both humans and aliens stood together, smiling, hearts pounding not from fear but from accomplishment. Throck's translator clicked again. "Together, humans, clever. Strength matters, but together power is greater." "Exactly," Lyra said. "Brains, heart, and teamwork. That is how humans solve difficult problems. We do not always win with force. We win with mind, with courage, and with understanding." Throck's deep alien eyes glimmered with something almost like pride. "I respect this. Human, very great." The human crew clapped softly. Mara and Keo both smiled. Throck, huge as he was, gave a small bow of acknowledgement, careful not to knock over the glowing spheres. After the formal challenge, Lyra turned to Throck. "Now, let us play a simpler game." They spent the rest of the day laughing, tossing soft spheres back and forth, chasing floating orbs, and even dancing slightly to human music. Throck moved awkwardly, his long limbs twisting and stretching, but the joy was clear in every motion. He laughed in a deep, resonant tone, and Lyra felt her chest fill with warmth. As the day went on, Throck shared stories of his home world. He spoke of glowing mountains, crystal lakes, and skies that shimmered like rivers of light. He described the training arenas where his people tested both mind and body. Lyra and her crew listened, fascinated, and asked questions. The alien warrior who once wanted to lie on humans as a bed was now teaching them about his world, his people, and his culture. By evening, Throck was tired. He had learned, he had played, he had laughed, and he had practiced something far more important than strength: patience, observation, and cooperation. He carefully picked up his soft sleeping pad and looked at Lyra. "I thank you. Today, I learned many things. My people will respect these lessons. I will not forget. You don't have to, Lyra said softly. You will carry them with you, and if you return, we can teach each other even more. Throck's eyes gleamed. Yes, return I will. More lessons, more games. Human Clever admired. The giant alien slowly exited the station, leaving behind a feeling of calm, achievement, and hope. The human crew relaxed, letting out quiet sighs of relief and happiness. They had not only survived another visit, they had taught, shared, and grown alongside Throck. Mara turned to Lyra. Captain, I think we actually made a friend out of a warrior. Lyra smiled, looking out at the stars. Not just a friend, someone who will carry human cleverness beyond the stars. That is HFY. Humans are awesome not because we are strong, but because we inspire, teach, and connect. Kyo added quietly, and we did it without a fight, without fear, only with creativity and heart. Lyra nodded. That is the way of humans. Strength is useful, yes. But intelligence, patience, and kindness, that is what makes us remarkable. As the station lights dimmed for the night, Lyra watched the horizon, thinking of all the challenges yet to come. Throck would return. They would face more puzzles, more games, and more opportunities to show what humans could do. And when that time came, she knew they would be ready. Because humans, she thought, were not only clever, they were unstoppable when they combined mind, heart, and courage. And Captain Lyra Dane smiled, knowing that today had been a small. The next morning at Outpost Sigma 9, the crew woke to the soft hum of the station and the gentle glow of the asteroid's light. Captain Lyra Dane felt a familiar excitement stirring in her chest. Today was special. She could feel it in the air. Throck, the towering alien warrior, had returned once before, but today promised more than learning games or floating puzzles. Today was about cooperation, understanding, and celebration of everything humans had to offer. The crew gathered in the main hall. Mara adjusted the floating panels, and Kyo prepared the music and the soft, glowing spheres. Lyra stood in the center, her mind focused. She had prepared a final challenge for Throck, a mix of everything they had practiced: observation, timing, patience, and teamwork. A soft vibration ran through the floor, and soon Throck's massive figure appeared in the doorway. His blue skin shimmered slightly in the station lights, and his bright eyes reflected curiosity and anticipation. He looked at the room and then at Lyra. "Human friends, I come again, ready for final lesson." "Yes," Lyra said, smiling. "Today we will show you the best humans can do, and maybe you will show us the best your people can do as well." Throck tilted his head. "I will try. I will not fall asleep on humans today." Lyra chuckled softly. "Good, that is progress." The challenge began with the floating spheres. Lyra, Throck, Mara, and Kyo worked together, moving through the arena like a single team. At first, the coordination was awkward. Throck's large hands nearly knocked a sphere away, and Kyo misjudged timing, causing the patterns to reset. Lyra guided them with calm confidence. "Focus, observe, think together, move as one." Slowly, the group began to sync. Throck learned to adjust his strength, Mara fine-tuned her timing, and Kyo watched every movement closely. Lyra moved with gentle precision, guiding all of them. The spheres glowed brighter with every successful move. The sense of accomplishment grew, filling the room with energy and warmth. After several rounds, the challenge progressed to the puzzle panels. Symbols and shapes floated and shifted in patterns that required planning and foresight. Lyra showed the team how to predict the movement, how to coordinate without rushing. Throck's deep alien eyes glimmered with focus as he began to anticipate the patterns. He tapped and moved with care, adjusting his motions for human-sized objects. "You are learning quickly," Lyra said. "Brains and observation win here." Throck paused, looking at her. "Yes, human clever, we move carefully together." As the final part of the challenge approached, Lyra led them to the floating platforms. These were more complicated than before, moving in multiple directions, rotating slowly, requiring teamwork and trust. Lyra took Throck's hand. "Trust me," she said softly. "We move together. Mind, heart, and balance. We can do this." Throck looked uncertain for a moment, then nodded. Trust, human, stronger than muscle. Step by step, they moved across the platforms. Throck's huge form balanced carefully, adjusting with Lyra's guidance. Mara and Keo followed, timing their movements perfectly. Every step required focus, communication, and patience. When they reached the final platform, everyone cheered softly. Not a single person had fallen, and not a single mistake had gone uncorrected. Throck stepped forward, bowing low. "Human taught me strength is not only in body, strength in heart, mind, teamwork. I honor this. I respect humans greatly." Lyra smiled warmly. "And we honor you, Throck. You are strong, curious, and willing to learn. That is the best anyone can be." After the challenges, the group spent the rest of the day in light-hearted play. Throck tried tossing soft spheres gently, balancing smaller objects, and even attempting to mimic human dances. His movements were awkward, giant limbs stretching in strange directions, but his joy was obvious. Lyra and her crew laughed, cheering him on. Every mistake became a lesson, every success a reason to celebrate. Later, Throck shared more stories about his home planet. He described the crystal plains that glowed at night, the rivers of light that stretched across the skies, and the massive arenas where his people measured strength and intelligence. He spoke with pride, yet there was a hint of curiosity about human life, about simplicity, about cooperation. "Your people small," Throck said thoughtfully, "but clever. You solve many things, not with strength, with mind, with heart." "And that is how humans survive," Lyra said softly. "We may not be the strongest, but we are clever, we are kind, and we can work together with anyone who is willing to learn." Throck's eyes reflected deep respect. "I will tell my people, strength good, but understanding better." As evening approached, the crew prepared a small celebration. They decorated the hall with soft lights and gentle music. Mara and Keo brought treats, simple but special human foods that Throck had grown curious about. He tried each one with care, tasting the sweet, sour, and warm flavors. His translator clicked as he spoke. "Food, human, pleasant, simple but satisfying." Lyra laughed softly. "Sometimes simple things are the best lessons. Food, trust, laughter, joy, that is what humans value. That is what makes life meaningful." Throck nodded, towering over the room yet careful not to disturb anything. "I understand. Human greatness, many forms." The evening ended with music. Lyra played a soft melody on a small human instrument, and Throck swayed gently, tapping his massive feet lightly in time. Mara and Keo joined, creating harmony with the music. Lyra looked around at the scene, human and alien sharing joy, understanding, and friendship. She felt a deep sense of pride. This was HFY at its best. Humans were not the strongest, not the largest, not the fastest, but they had heart, creativity, kindness, and cleverness. And that made them remarkable, even in a universe full of giants and warriors. Before leaving, Throck approached Lyra one last time. He placed his large hand over his chest, a gesture of respect and sincerity. "Captain, human clever, human heart, I honor. Today I learned more than challenge. I learned friendship. I will return. More games, more lessons." "And we will be ready," Lyra said with a smile. "Humans always are, and you will see we can inspire even the strongest warriors with nothing but our minds and hearts." Throck gave a final deep bow, then carefully carried his soft sleeping pad to his ship. This time there was no fear, no misunderstanding, only respect, curiosity, and the quiet joy of friendship. As the airlock sealed behind him, the station felt calm, bright, and full of hope. Mara turned to Lyra. "Captain, we really did it. We made a friend from a warrior." Lyra nodded softly, looking out at the stars. "Not just a friend, someone who will carry human cleverness and kindness beyond the stars. That is what makes humans special. That is HFY, Keo added quietly, and we did it without fear, without conflict, only with mind and heart. Lyra smiled. Exactly. Strength matters, but intelligence, patience, and understanding, those are the true powers. That is what makes humans remarkable. The stars outside the station twinkled like diamonds, reflecting the soft glow inside. Captain Lyra Dane felt proud, not only for herself, not only for her crew, but for humanity. Humans were clever, they were kind, and they could create friendship and trust even in the most unexpected circumstances. She thought about the future. Throck would return. They would face more puzzles, more games, and perhaps even teach each other more about their worlds. And when that time came, she knew humanity would be ready. Because humans, she believed, were unstoppable when they used mind, heart, and courage together. As the station grew quiet for the night, Lyra sat at her desk, looking at the glowing asteroid through the window. She whispered softly to herself, "Humans are awesome, not because we are strong, but because we are clever, kind, and brave." And somewhere beyond the stars, Throck's ship glided silently, carrying the lessons of friendship, cooperation, and understanding back to his people. A warrior once focused only on strength had learned the power of heart and mind. Captain Lyra Dane leaned back in her chair, feeling calm, proud, and hopeful. Tomorrow would bring more lessons, more laughter, and more adventure. But today, she knew that humans had proven something extraordinary. That intelligence, creativity, kindness, and courage were powers even the strongest warrior could respect. And that was the greatest victory of all.